Alright guys, we have the announcement for some of the new servants that are going to be coming to JPFGO, or at least live on JPFGO as this video is going live. Sorry if it's a little bit late, they kind of pushed the servants back. We actually had a bit of a jump scare that we weren't going to get 7.2 and all the new servants for like a couple of weeks, but they only pushed it back by 3 hours, right? So it was a bit of a jump scare for all of us, like as we were watching the live stream. We were like, dude, are we just not going to get any new information on these guys? But they're like, no, we'll just push it back by 3 hours. And the 5-star servant that's coming out is Tezcatlipoca. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but just so I don't butcher it for the entirety of the video, I'm just going to call him New Assassin Guy, or, you know, I don't know, literally any 80s rocker ever. Side note, if you get this guy, you're pretty much obligated to keep him in his first ascension, because I have no idea what they thought they were cooking with this second and third ascension, but bro, they were not cooking. They were definitely not cooking indeed. But yeah, if you guys enjoy daily FGO content, and especially your boy being out here running on like 0 hours of sleep to make sure I get this content out for you guys, make sure you guys are informed of the new servants that are coming to JP. Make sure you leave a like on the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel for all that good stuff in the future, because you know what, anytime they do some random stream like this and they drop guys in the middle of the crack of dawn, you know that your boy is going to be out here to go ahead and cover it. But this guy I actually think is going to be pretty solid. He's kind of bringing technically like 2 new mechanics. One is with one of his passive skills and one is on his third skill. They're kind of interesting. I don't think any of them are going to be particularly broken unless we get more information on how they actually interact, but we'll talk about that as we go through the video. So let's kind of like move on and start talking about what this guy is doing. Now, you will note that he's kind of got like lower attack, but I think he's actually going to be fine because he does quad buff himself. He gives himself a nice attack buff. He can actually stack NP damage. He's got a really solid arts buff as an arts AoE servant. And he's got 2 special damage mods, one of which might not be that good, but the other one is very solid, being a divine special damage mod. So first and foremost, we have his first skill. So this is going to basically be his charisma, but in a way, he can almost double buff anybody, right? There's a lot of servants in the game that have very valuable charismas, like Jalter with dragons, Liz with your female servants, and I believe it's Steno that does Divine, right? They're able to double buff people and give them a 40% attack buff. This is kind of almost maybe for free on anybody, especially because we even have like master, like mystic codes that can actually give you gutses, because what it does is it gives you a 20% attack buff to everybody, right? Normal charisma. But if you have guts, you get an additional 20% attack. Now, this is good for him because he's already got his own guts buff. But if you have anybody else that you also want to give this attack buff to, sorry, again, it is really early and I'm running on like no sleep, so if I misspeak on anything, you'll have to forgive me. Give me a little bit of slack here. But you can effectively double buff anybody with this, and I think that's actually really interesting, right? There's a little bit of that stipulation on that they got to have a guts, but not only is it good for him, because again, he's got a little bit of a lower attack stat, giving himself 40% attack is going to really help out his damage and help him do pretty solid amounts of farming if you want to use him for that as well. But the fact that you can like effectively double buff anybody, I think is an interesting asset that he has. Now, this is almost like his most tame skill. I think skills 2 and 3 are also just insanely good. I mean, he's giving himself a 50% battery and then also charging the other members of the party, excluding himself, by 30%. Then he's going to give them 2 hits of invincibility, but then make them immune to invincibility for 3 turns. So let's break all this down. 50% battery is obviously insanely good for him, because if you're going to be using him for farming, having that extra battery, especially at lower NP copies where maybe you don't get enough overkill, so you're missing like 10% NP, it could be very nice for that. It's also very nice for just being able to start off with, say, an event CE that you really want to run for like a max CE setup, and it's got like a 50% battery or something on that. It's just really nice for those things. Charging the party's NP by 30% is insane because he's an art servant, right? And because it's an art servant, you're going to be pairing him with like Tamamo or Castoria, both of whom have really dummy nutty NPs, right? Castoria has the NP where you're getting the solemn defense, the attack buff, and the debuff cleanse, and then Tamamo is lowering your skill cooldown, refunding your NP, and giving you HP. Both of them, you really want to like spam their NPs. Maybe Castoria not as much technically, because you might want to save the debuff cleanse or save the solemn defense for when you actually need it, but still, I've just gone through a lot of CQs where like I would just like chain their NPs to each other and just get mad attack and just obliterate whoever you're fighting. So in a way, you could also just spam our NP all over the place, right? But even more so if you're going to be using like someone like Tamamo, right? Because Tamamo is also still very good to use. People forget that she is still solid. So this is kind of insane, right? Because not only is it a strong battery for himself, but he's also doing something that really helps out his supports. And in fact, between skill 1 and skill 2, you can either like use other people that are around him that also might be like pseudo DPS supports because he's giving them a lot of attack, or you could just still use them with normal supports and just massively help them charge up their NP. Because keep in mind, with like double Castoria, this means they can effectively get up to like 90% on turn 1 because you have the 60% NP that they're both going to give because of their dual charismas, right? Like one Castoria gives 30%, you have two of them, 60%, plus this. You can almost autofill their NP to like 100% right at the start. You actually can if you give them like NEC either gives them starting charge, or you've just even unlocked their append skill to give them at base 10%. So this I already think is really insane when you consider like how the application would actually work. And then this is just extra survivability. Now, how this looks like it applies is it looks like you get the invincibility first, and then after these are wasted, you know, you can't actually like apply invincibility again. The nice thing is though, is that Castoria can give you solemn defense, right? So even if you're like immune to invincibility, Castoria can still protect your party, right? It's still insanely nice. So I think this skill is like just really nutty overall. Skill 3, it's just giving him a whole smorgasbord of good stuff. It's giving him a Guts, which is turning on his first skill, and it's an extra form of survivability that Castoria does not give him. He's giving himself a solid 30% arts buff for free for 3 turns, and then he's giving himself double special damage mod, Divine and Super Giant, which Divine is actually really, really good. Super Giant, I mean, it's kind of nice when it comes up, but keep in mind that, like, not everybody's, like, clamoring to use Arthur because of his Super Giant special damage rod. Like, I don't know if you're going to be, like, effectively breaking this guy out because of the Super Giant thing. It might just be nice if it comes up, but thankfully, you know, this guy is just already really good as is. And so the Super Giant thing, it's like, okay, you gave him Divine, which is really good because there's quite a few like Divine normal enemies, and there's quite a few Divine servants that you could bring this guy to and get good damage on. But the Super Giant thing might just be really nice when it comes. But this is interesting. So I actually like kind of had to wait a little bit to kind of put this video out because I really wanted to find out what this is, because I was really debating as to whether or not this was him making himself like immune or like couldn't be buffed when he was on sunlight, or if he was like negating sunlight somehow. And we found out that while he's on the field, the effects of like sunlit battlefield are negated, which is really fitting if you like know who this guy is. But it's really interesting because I was like, wow, this guy is like the ultimate like Ozzy and Gawain counter, right? I'm sure we're gonna get like something Quetzalcoatl related during this event or something along those lines. And so this might be useful if we get like a really OP, like, you know, sun god battle that you're gonna really want to bring this guy to. But it's just really funny that he's like, nope, I'm on the field, and like instead of granting myself a field effect, I negate the field effect. So that could actually be really interesting going forward, just kind of depending on, you know, how relevant this might be. But still, if you look at everything else he's doing, he's got like these like quirky things in here, like these last 2 effects here, but everything else is really strong. This is the first unique thing, by the way, that I thought he was kind of doing that's kind of new, is that he's not granting himself a battlefield, he's negating the battlefield. But the other one is this. So what this does is it's buffing the effects of like master, like mystic code stuff by 100, right? It doesn't seem like it's going to be like that insane, because if it's only 100, it's not like 100%, because otherwise it would, you know, say 100%. It's like worded the same way as like Divine, where like Divine gives you like the extra 150 extra damage, right? So this is like kind of like an interesting step in the right direction, right? Or like moving forward per se, because, you know, we actually might start to get guys in the future that are like buff the effects of like mystic codes by 10%. This is only 100, so it's like if you're gonna heal for like 1,000, you get like 1,100. It's like cool. It's like whatever, right? But like moving forward, it might be like dummy, nutty, broken, insane. Now that we know we actually have this in game, right? It kind of seems like this is like just letting us know that, yeah, like we have this effect in game, and it might be coming like with more force in the future, right? It might become like even more insane. So I thought it was interesting. I don't think it's super insane yet, but it might become insane in the future. And then finally his NP is just like generic good stuff, right? Like he gives himself pierce invincibility. So, you know, if you're bringing him to like a challenge quest, you know, you can't like use evasion or invul to like get around him. He's going to smack you in the face for big damage. And then he's actually going to be stacking NP damage over here. Now, we looked into it and it doesn't look like it applies first, which kind of sucks. You would like it to proc first, so you're like, it's more useful for farming, but even then, after the first node, you'll have this extra 20% NP damage, and so he'll still be able to kind of stack and get stronger as he goes along. I would be really surprised if it doesn't proc first, because like Space, Ishtar, Muramasa, everybody that typically has something like this, typically it procs first, right? Because otherwise it doesn't really make as much sense. But it'll still be useful, right? Because then after the first NP, he'll really start to ramp up damage, especially if you have someone that he has damage mod against, because he'll have all 4 buff types, right? And that means his damage is just like multiplying through the moon. And then it's just also nice that he also just gives that extra 10% to the entire party. So that can also just be really nice and helping your like Castorias or whoever you're going to be using to also be able to get to their NP easier. And as I mentioned earlier, someone like Tamamo or Castoria really does want to fire their NP because they're so strong. So even in more difficult content, which maybe they're intending him to be used in because his HP stat is absolutely massive. He is a thick boy. So it's like maybe they're intending for you to use him there, but it makes him really good as the fight is going on because his NP is going to be getting stronger and he's going to be helping his allies kind of fire their NP to also kind of help him out. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. This guy seems like he's going to be really good. He seems like he's going to be real strong. A must summon, probably not, right? I don't think you're gonna necessarily need to go out and get this guy, because like if you're looking for like a looper or something, it's like I don't think this is the guy that you're gonna need to go out and get, especially because his NP gain is a little bit low with only 4 hits. So it's like he probably won't be like the insane looper guy you're looking for, especially if you're looking out for like say Ibuki Berserker, if you've got Musashi, Kama, if you've got even Nido-Chris Alter, I think might be a little bit more of a solid choice. But then again, with his damage mods, maybe he'll perform a little bit better than Nido-Chris Alter. But again, you even have stuff like, did I say Space Ishtar and Kama? I don't know. It's super early in the morning, but yeah, it's, he's probably not going to be like insane for that, but I don't know. Like he seems like he'll be really, really good, right? He might just be like one of those servants that like, if you get it, like you see him on like a banner or like a GSSR or something along those lines, it might be like really good if you happen to get him, right? He's just like kind of like a solid servant that's now just kind of been added to FGO, right? If you want to view it that way. But I would still, if you're on JP, we did just get like this insane foreigner looking chick who seems like she might be really nutty. Like she actually might just be insane. So yeah, I don't know. I'd maybe hold out the same courts until we kind of get an idea of what's going to be going on with her. She's probably going to be the next banner. But yeah, I'd love to hear guys' thoughts on this guy. I am going to go to sleep. I'm gonna go take a fat nap. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy that. I'm out here just making sure I get this out for you guys, and you know, always on that content grind. But I was like, dude, I need to go to bed. But I don't know, I think it was worth it. I think this guy's really solid, and you know, tomorrow I'll hit you guys with the 4-star video. But yeah, with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace, late guys.